But if we actually see, aware that how this hurt, with all its consequences, is part of our life, and whether those wounds can ever disappear completely. Because if that doesn't disappear completely, it's part of our sorrow. Right? Are we following this? Are we thinking together? And there is this pain of isolation, separateness. Not only as a race, as a community, as a nation, but also isolating ourselves as an individual. And all the consequences, the travail, the misery of that individual. And our activity is always self-centered, which is one of the factors of isolation. Now, the question then is, after having described the various forms of sorrow, whether we can look at it without verbalization, without running away from it, or by intellectual adaptation to some other form of a religious or intellectual conclusion, but to look at it completely, not move away from it, stay with it. You understand? What we mean by that is, suppose I have a son who is deaf and dumb, who may die, and I am responsible, because I have produced him. And it is sorrow, knowing that he can never look at the beautiful sky, never hear the running waters, and there is this sorrow. To remain with it, not move away from it. You understand? Are you following? That is, I have this great pain, this sorrow, either of his deformity or the death of someone with whom I have lived for many years, and the ending of that person. There is this sorrow. Sorrow is the essence of isolation. Right? I wonder if you understand that. Right? When we are totally isolated, completely alone, and that feeling is sorrow. Now, to remain completely with that feeling, not verbalize it, rationalize it, escape from it, transcend it, all the movement that thought brings about. Are we meeting each other? So that when there is that sorrow, and when thought doesn't enter into it at all, which means that you are completely sorrow. Not that you are trying to overcome sorrow, you are totally sorrow. And when there is that totality of it, then there is the disappearance of it. It's only when there is fragmentation, then there is travail. You understand? Are we meeting each other? So when there is sorrow, to remain with it without a single movement of thought, and that the wholeness of it. The wholeness of sorrow. It's not that I am in sorrow, I am sorrow. So there is no fragmentation involved in sorrow. So when there is that totality of that, and there is no movement away from that, then there is the withering away of it. Right? Are we together in this? You see, without ending sorrow, how can there be love? We have associated sorrow and love strangely together. I love my son, and when he dies, I'm full of sorrow. So we have associated sorrow with love. Now we are asking whether love can exist. When there is suffering, can love exist at all? Right? Please. We are asking then, is love desire? Is love pleasure? And when that desire, that pleasure is denied, there is suffering. And we say suffering as jealousy, attachment, possession and all that is part of love. That's our condition, that's how we are educated. That's a part of our great inheritance, tradition. Now we are asking, love and suffering cannot possibly go together. Right? That's not a dogmatic statement or rhetorical assertion.